Well, I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker with a really, really interesting topic, probably one that's going to be near and dear to all of our hearts, especially this year. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Whitney Daly, SVP of Customer Experience at Netwrix, who's going to talk to us about designing a new renewal strategy.
Thank you. You guys can hear me? Yeah? Okay, perfect. Well, good morning. My name is Whitney. This is my second time presenting. I think the last time I was here is the first year that they had it here. Super excited to be back. And the last time that I was here, I was at my prior company, which was SAP, where I built and founded the renewal organization. And by the time I left, we were managing over 50,000 renewals a year, roughly $3 billion in revenue. So I say all that to say I know a thing or two, but I'm constantly challenging and making sure that the best idea must win. And I've heard some good ones this week. So today I'm going to, thank you. Pretty important, huh? I'm going to talk a lot about my experience in that, what I know works, what doesn't work, et cetera, especially in leading my team, because I can't get on a stage or talk to anyone without the human element. You'll just learn that about me. I moved from SAP about a year ago into a cybersecurity company that is roughly 220 million in ARR, and I am now building their customer experience organization. So I own customer success, renewals, everything of that nature. I left SAP because I built something and it was in maintenance mode, and I wanted to get back into kind of build mode. And I, quite frankly, had a is this it for me moment in life. I could have just retired and sailed off into the sun doing that. But that's kind of not what I'm made of. You go through some personal things in life like we all have. And I really had that inflection moment where I was like, this doesn't feel right for me anymore, and I'm going to go do something kind of hard again, build something new again. So that's what I'm doing, and hopefully share some of that with y'all. So, all right, okay. I'm going to start, like I said, I'm very, very, very people-centered. Everything I'm going to show you today literally does not matter if you don't invest in your team. And so my philosophy is really driven by, if I don't motivate myself, I can't motivate my people. If I don't inspire myself, I can't inspire others. If I don't help myself, if I don't challenge myself, I can't challenge others. I do not care about business books and things like that in the same way that I used to, because all of my success is founded in the culture I drive within my team. So that's not rocket science, but I'm firmly rooted in that, which means that I'm constantly looking for something that puts me outside of my comfort zone. So I'm about 1 week-ish out from, as you can see, coming back from Tanzania, Africa, where I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro to push myself outside of my comfort zone. So thank you. I'm in a relationship with a high-altitude mountaineer, so he's doing the 7 summits. I was like, I'll do that one with you, and then it taught me a lot. We did the accelerated route, but I say all that to say that I'm constantly searching for my own individual mission-pushing ideas so that I can show up for my team in a way that maybe lets them think about what they want to go do. I loved how Christy talked about Dave saying, go make new memories. Like, this is not a trial life. We got to go do the things. So in my team, I'm always waking up every day talking every week about our mission. And one thing, my mission at our new company is we say we're in the arena. So you guys may have heard a quote, long time ago quote that's like, that goes something around like, the critic doesn't count, the spectators don't count. It's the people that are in the arena making mistakes with blood on their face, with wounds that count. And with our team, we're constantly saying, thanks for being in the arena with me. Like, there's nothing worse than just being the spectators. So we have a strong mission based right now that's just like, at least we're in the arena. We have really hard days, but we're there. We also have very core values to the team that's driven through the company, so we built those together. How do we show up with values? It's a really personal thing. You know, when your values are crossed, people can really get behind that. I find that my team, who are of all ages and races, them creating their own value system that we abide by in our team has brought a lot of unity. And then we're super proud of our reputation. Like I say all the time, I do not care that you won, I care how you won. And we talk a lot about that. So how you got to the finish line, how you brought yourself to the team, the people you work with, et cetera, is so deadly important that, again, I really don't care if you got the deal, if you got it in the wrong way. So we're really proud of our reputation. We talk a lot about our reputation, and we lean into that in a way. This all comes from some mountaineering books. Like I said, I live with one, so it's kind of like my ethos lately, and here we are. I honestly thought, coming from Kilimanjaro, I was like, I don't want to see mountains or hiking boots for a very long time. But here I was, and I did the Stewart Falls hike when I got here, and it's funny how you think you're done, but you're not. You're just moving on to a new part of life. So with that said, that's the sort of fluff of things, but I can't not talk about it because everything I'm going to talk to you guys about now is worthless if you don't, invest in those things with your team. Okay. So this can be a little bit of a religious conversation, but I have employed this model time and time again, and I will continue to do it because I've seen the best and brightest deals and the highest NRRs when I employ this model. Now, depending on what stage of company what stage you're at in your company, this might take some time, but I do encourage you to think through this lens as you scale, grow, certainly as you have a multi-product strategy, you acquire companies, et cetera. If you want people to be focused in on the things that make NRR grow and them not quit because they're doing too much, you want to aspire to this model. So it's not difficult. It's what I call the trifecta, where you have your sellers focused on selling, right? And I put the triangles together for a reason. Everyone needs to work together, right? And this is not an independent motion, but the CSM, based driving value realization, as we all know and understand, and then the renewal manager, which is the team and the strategies that I'm going to talk mostly about today, which is having that true renewal specialist, which really partners with the team, but works through that last line of execution. So the terms and conditions, the negotiations. The renewal management team can often be seen as the the match to customers' procurement. So when they bring in their procurement, you kind of bring in your folks like that too. Especially when you're growing and scaling, if your CSM or your AE is spending way too much time in renewal negotiation cycles, they're not doing the things that they need to do elsewhere. So certainly there's deals you're going to partner on where there's cross-sell, upsell, and the AE might take more of a lead role there. But when there isn't cross-sell and upsell, when we are actually downselling, when we're just trying to stay revenue neutral, that's when I highly expect the renewal manager to step in and bring that all the way through to fruition. This is where I've seen the most success. When I left SAP, I had a team of roughly 300 renewal managers against 1,200 CSMs. And just a busload of AEs. I don't even know how many there were, but it worked, it works. And like I said, we were doing 50,000 renewals a year at 99% on-time rate. So that's really important, especially to your CFO. All right, so let's get into a little bit of what I believe, and what some of this is obvious to you guys, but these are the things that, independent of the personas that you employ at your company at what time, these metrics are the ones that I find the most important to the board. These are what I present to my board now, what I have for quite a while, and what I think is ultimately the 5 things that matter the most. So I don't really need to go into NR and GR there, but those are important. And then you need to be able to differentiate those so that you can understand and break down of that, how much is uplift, how much is upsell, right? So as you're setting up your structures, make sure that you can slice that data and set it up from the beginning like that, because it's a pain when you can't in the end. Price increase is a big one, especially right now. Your ability and your team's ability to drive margins and profitability is embedded deeply in price increase. I'll talk a lot more about really good things you need to do now, independent of all things around price increase. Multi-years, need I say more? It's important. We need to get customers for the long term. And then linearity and execution. You need to have a high-performing renewal engine that ensures that your deals are getting done on time. That's important for any CFO's revenue forecast, your company's revenue forecast. Depending on if you're SaaS or what kind of company, either which way, you need to have them compliant, but mostly because you need to ensure that your revenue is coming in and on time when you said it would, and this is easily measured. It's a KPI that you can easily measure. I can talk to anyone at any time. There's some really cool, then with all of that, you should set up your systems and technology to be able to slice your data by a couple different dimensions, right? So that you can steer and understand where you're having problems in your company. So I say all of this to say is like, if you're going in and you're setting things up now, make sure that you can segment your customers by ACV. This is coming out as one of the leading indicators of success, where success lies, ACV, segment by ACV. There's a quote at the bottom. There's a lot of research going on right now around this, and it's starting to be the thing. Also, you need to be obviously split by region. Do I have a problem in APJ? Am I churning out in EMEA, et cetera? The industry. This is super important because you need to go back to your sales team to be able to talk about where are we losing customers, what industries, where are we winning, what's the best fit for our product, what seems to be working, where is it not, and why. So this is a very good conversation to partner with sales. And then ultimately your indirect, direct partner ecosystem, you're gonna wanna understand if you have those, how your renewal rates are performing with that. Are you doing well within the channel? Are you doing poorly within the channel? Within that channel, do you have poor performing partners that are leading to churn? Or do you have great ones that you need to double down on, or people you need to exit out? So these are just some things that I don't think you need to overcomplicate it. These 5 things are really what I have found are cared about the most. Okay, so we've talked a lot about compensation plans, and this one specifically, I wanted to give just an example of a renewal manager compensation plan. So when you do get to that plate, albeit there's things in here that you can use for any persona, but compensation plans, incent your team, of course, and this one is renewal manager based. So I have found the best renewal manager based one is an MBO plan, roughly 80-20, that breaks down into 3 MBO components, which is, as I mentioned, net retention, the execution or linearity rate. So net retention being a team-based goal, because we all know people can get portfolios that aren't that great, so this is a team-based goal. And the weighting, you'll notice on this, the weighting for where I'm at now, we introduced this new to the team, and the data was imperfect, right? So we put the weighting lower when we introduced it, understanding all the maturity issues we were having as a company. If you don't have it locked down, you need to be sure that they're not super penalized as you figure that out as a company. So the weighting you can obviously change to whatever suits your company's scale and maturity, but this is how we've set it up. So execution, like I said, linearity rate. Is your renewal engine working and on time, or are you bleeding out? And then opportunity management, which I have taken this in and out over time, but data is everything, and you have to incent your teams to care about making sure that basically your denominators and numerators are correct, so that everything that you're reporting up is factual, that the rates that you're giving to the board, that they're putting notes and things, like just basic opportunity management, but it has to be clean, it's important. And what I tell the team all the time is this feels very tactical, but what I'm asking you for is clarity, transparency. Please make it good so that we can show we're great. And it seems to work. And I put a pretty heavy weighting on it because they need to do the things. It's manager discretion, which is kind of odd, and it's a kind of difficult thing to measure, but I have my managers tell their team, every couple of weeks how they feel they're doing relative to this, and the team feels like, okay, you tell me I'm doing good or you tell me I'm doing terribly, I know what I need to improve. These things I have sent out to my team roughly every 10 days, so the team understands. So these things are by my CS Ops team, which is one person, by the way, so they send this out to the renewal managers every 10 days so they understand exactly where they're at, where they need to turn the screws, and how they're executing against the quarter and the year. So I put some scaling down there, and then the final thing is, I think that this is always important because I'm a kindergartner when it comes to looking at these things. Okay. This is just an example. This is what I give to the team, right? They need to understand exactly how they are being metriced. So this is this is just an example payout calculation for them, right? If you have a $100 comp plan and we weight it like this against these three measures, and you perform like this against these three measures, you get $98. I really highly suggest you build out something as simple as this, because if your team understands where they need to turn the screws and you set up that culture that I mentioned, they're going to bring the toolbox like you've never seen, right? So this is just something I need to always bring it down to a kindergarten level for myself, but I think the teams really appreciate and understand this. I always use $100 for simplicity. Okay. And then as we get into the final things, that independent of if you believe in the personas that I identified, and I hope that you do, or the performance measures that I identified, and I hope that you do, there's distinct processes and things that you need to do now so you do not hate yourself later. I'm so clear on these things because I've had to unwind too many things when I did not. So the first thing being a renewal motion. That means every renewal is not treated the same. You guys know that. You need to figure out what's right for your business. I've done it a few different ways, but there's a segment of your renewals that are what I would call strategic, that you want to go after proactively, that you want your team to be way further out on, working on. And then there's the volume auto portion that is typically 20% of your revenue, 80% of your transactions, where you need to set up an auto renewal program or a low-touch volume program. It is less proactive, the ratios are higher, but you need to set this up front so that you understand and resource your team against a motion that has clear engagement principles. The strategic motion, typically, my new company is an anomaly, and I could talk at any point about this with you, but your strategic renewal motion is typically 80% of your revenue, so that you know that if you take care of that in a proactive, less, more engaged way, you're going to see good renewal rate. And that typically represents 20% of your transactions. So setting your renewal motion up front and making that visible in your CRM is important. The renewal motion is going to tell the whole field team how that deal should run, right? So if it's an auto renewal, you don't want anyone in the company going to disrupt that efficiency of an auto renewal and engage and try to negotiate it. So there's that. Your ratios are going to be set against your renewal motion. So as you have renewal managers, or even if you have CSMs doing this, you're going to want to put more capacity in the volume motion naturally and less capacity so you can have more meaningful engagements in the strategic motion. So where I've seen the sweet spot for renewal managers and the strategic is 20 to 25 renewals per quarter, roughly 100 a year. And that's a lot. If you think about if you're negotiating top 500 company contracts, 20 a quarter can be laborious, and that's kind of the max relative to what I've seen. And then in the volume space, roughly 40-ish, depending. And then auto, of course, doesn't have ratio. You should constantly be pushing the agenda to try to move your auto renewal line up to covering 20% of your revenue. Okay, terms and condition flexibility. This I can't impress more, but if you haven't worked with your legal team, you need to go work on your EULA right now to make sure that you have simple auto renew terms, even if you don't leverage the auto renewability. At some point you need to. And that you have very simple price increase language that does not have a percentage allocation to it. Think about, back in the day, a lot of us did 3% and things like that in our contract. Well, even this year, if 3% isn't cutting it. So you want to have somewhat ambiguous language in your terms and conditions that just says we have the right to increase your price, so that as the market changes, I go through this with my board every 6 months. We decide, is this the right percentage increase that we should have globally and consistently? Do we need to adjust it based on inflation? And I can do that within one meeting and go straight out to the field teams and say, this is what we do on a 1 year, this is what we do on a 3 year, and I don't have to worry about any contractual anything otherwise. And I am we are very judicious about not allowing new business sales to mess with auto renewal language or price increase. You just don't get to do it, period. Because that breaks scale like you can't imagine. And then also we set up another thing is reinstatement fee language. This is important for the team, doesn't have to be leveraged, but you should work to put that in your contract because customers don't want to pay because they're late. Just, it's teeth, it works, you should have it. We have 10% that says we can offer, or that we apply a 10% reinstatement fee if you're late. And we just started that, and people don't like that. But also they can completely avoid it by doing things on time. So, and then finally, another piece relative to legal is not so much in your T&Cs, but these are easy things you can adjust in your end user license agreement with legal. It'll cause you a lot of pain if you don't have it later on. I also encourage you to set up a no negotiation threshold within your company if you don't have it. So specifically in my volume business or deals below a certain amount, we don't negotiate terms at all with our customers. We just don't touch the T's and C's. It's not even a conversation. Naturally, customers ask, we say no. I don't get to negotiate my, Apple or Netflix agreement as much as I'd like to. It's just an understood. But I highly suggest doing that because you'll spend a lot of time negotiating $5,000 deals or whatever threshold you set that you really should not. Another process thing that I solely and wholly believe in, which all of you guys have used, is the use of a unified risk reason or churn reason. We all kind of understand that concept, but coming into an organization, one of the first things you need to do is very clearly define what we're going to measure our win and loss analyses by, get a common set of risk reasons that are cross-functionally aligned between product, services, support, sales, et cetera, so that and then I run a quarterly win-loss analysis for my whole company, including marketing and every cross-functional leader. And we talk about what we're seeing, why we're winning, why we're losing. The specific reasons inform certain plays within our company. So you should work really hard at getting that list tight, and that list should drive action. You should be able to drive plays off of those reasons. And those reasons should inform your company's investments or investments otherwise based on what they are. And then finally, I have suffered much from this, and I realize that this is a tall order in most companies right now, but the company that I just joined, we've bought 9 companies in the last year and a half. So, and when I was at SAP, I integrated in 16 businesses. Now I've done 9 within a year and a half. And it's just enablement. So when I go back to thinking about my team, if I had not asked for a couple dedicated resources to enable my renewals teams or CSM teams as often as they need it, and it feels like an everyday thing because we have constant commercial changes, product changes, everything that they need to know. I have suffered a lot from not having the proper enablement backbone to support that, and then it all falls on me or my leaders who really need to do other things. So if you can, ask for that early and often because you're going to need that as you grow, or if you're already grown up, if you don't know how critical enablement is. And this is the number one thing that our customers and my team is constantly asking me for. Help me do better what you're asking me to do so that I can show up every day and do the things that you need me to do. So these are just things that I have learned over time that have caused me a lot of heartache. But if you drive these processes up front, you'll quickly realize in the end how much time you've saved. And you can unwind some of it now, but I highly suggest doing it. So at the end of it, really that's it. That's I'm trying to implore the thought process that you should have different personas working on these things. I know that's a hard time, and this, Christy said, do less with more. We're being asked for, it's very hard to get another role defined in your company. I can tell you that I have done that, and if any of you are struggling to get that justified within your company, you believe in it, but you don't you can't get people to believe in it with you, please talk to me, because I have formed those organizations 2 times in a private equity-backed, bootstrapped, cost-constrained model, and in a large technology company that is, quite frankly, hard to change over time doing anything. So with that, I have 5 minutes for questions, if you would like.
Thank you, Whitney. So last year, I got budget for a renewal specialist, and this quarter, I'm switching back to CSMs owning renewals. The reason why I was not, well, we were successful with the renewals manager, but so far we have been more successful with the CSM receiving less pushback on negotiation and terms with the CSM rather than the renewals manager. Now, this makes me think back into maybe the focus or strategy will work more, but any tips on, now that it's back in the CSMs, how can we work on getting that focus on the renewal that is less of a burden from the CSM, because previously the CSMs were just push it to the renewal, but the deals were taking longer, and the negotiation of the 5K deals was just burning. With the CSMs, that's not happening, but it's only a quarter of that test.
Yeah, I mean, it could be so many things. But what I would say is you got to hire for the right persona. So typically, the CSM persona, it depends on how you hire, right, is going to be more of a practitioner. They're the trusted advisor. They are not the same, at least organizations I have built, of the same commercial grit that my renewal managers are. Most of my renewal managers are either ex-inside sales or salespeople who are deep negotiators and experts, and this is their skill set. They are not good at being CSMs, and CSMs are not good at being RMs, and together they complement that. I also think that if you've put that framework up to your customer, the customers really appreciate it, because they don't often want to talk to their CSM about the commercials of it. They would rather use their procurement, AKA your procurement, to deal with those things. And all of you have negotiated a contract lately, but it can go, and in these days, they can take 6 months. I mean, depending on your customer size, these things can get really gritty and very labor intensive. The whole terms and conditions, working with your legal, working with procurement, working within your technology, your CRM, your quoting mechanisms, all of that stuff. This is not where you want your CSM most of their time. And you sure don't want your AE there. And your renewal manager does not like it either. They don't like their CRM, they don't like that kind of thing, but that is their job, so that everyone else isn't labored to that. I will tell you that at my prior organization, we gave the CSMs back 40% of their capacity. 40%. That's a big, big deal, right? So, and we saw our renewal rates within roughly 8 months go up 8 points, right? And that, you guys know, removing renewal rates isn't an overnight type of thing. So it can be done. Your profiles have to be really good. Another thing is CSMs, AEs, CSMs, and RMs, if you don't hire well, will never trust each other. So if you hire less, and not, a renewal manager that's not good at negotiating, then you're going to find all your roles keep doing it because they don't trust them. So it does come down to really making good hires and being clear about their responsibility and their main points of, or areas where they spend their time. So hopefully that answers your question. I do think that it's most powerful when you use that model. Any other questions? How did you scale?
How did you scale 300 renewal managers? That gives me a headache.
When you say, in what way do you mean? Like just...
How did you keep track of it? How did you make sure that they were coming in on time? What systems did you use? I have a million questions. And we can talk about all of it. There's so many things, but one, and Shane talked a lot about it, like I am so crazy about how I hire and who I hire. I'm looking for curiosity-led people that just want to figure it out. And my leadership team, I
I will not have a leader on my team that doesn't wake up every day and care about the people first. It sounds silly, but this is how you do it. They are dialed into a way of being that makes them perform, right? There's so many other tactical operational things. I have Spitfire operations people that I've been fortunate to come along on the ride with me from company to company. That's another thing, right? But so with that, I'm at time. Please, I encourage you. I know this is a lot that I threw at you. And if you have other questions, I'm happy to talk about them after we leave the conference while we're still here. But I am a big believer that time is our greatest asset. I say it all the time. And in many ways, you guys are in the arena with me today. So I appreciate you guys listening and leaning into the conversation and challenging my perspectives, because I don't think that anything that I knew is what I will know next year. And I really encourage you to challenge me on the things I think I know. Thank you very much.